All right, sweet. Flatline MMA podcast episode number 70. Big weekend in the MMA world. UFC 260 Saturday night featured the heavyweight championship on the line. The rematch between the big boys, Stipe Miocic taking on Francis Ngannou, number 2. Let's just dive right into it, buddy. There's really a couple fights that I wanted to go into detail on. Some really great ones we had. Just to go over a few good ones on the prelims that we saw. Alfonso Menefield taking on Fabio Cherant. Von Fluchoke from Menefield. Great performance, right? Fabio stepping in on short notice. Unfortunately, running into a just monster of a human, Alonzo Menefield, getting it done. I believe we had Khabib's cousin, Abubakar Nurmagomedov, defeated Jared Gordon via decision. That was a great fight overall there. Jamie Malarkey getting it done. Fucking KOing Karma Worthy. Yeah, I think we were all shocked by that one.
Yeah. No, that was an awesome knockout.
Great fight there. Jamie Malarkey, someone to keep an eye on that lightweight division. And let's get into the big boy fights here. One of the ones that we wanted to preview, I think everyone was excited about this one. We had Sean O'Malley taking on Thomas Almeida. Sean O'Malley coming off of his TKO loss of Chito Vera back last year. One of kind of the hottest prospects, not only in the bantamweight division, I think all of the UFC. Came in undefeated. His leg gave out against Chito. He's getting a lot of criticism because he's, considering that a win still. So he was coming into this fight saying he was 12-0. He was undefeated. He had that mentality. Taking on a guy, Thomas Almeida, who started his career 21-0, right? This kid was on a rocket ship to the title. He ran into Cody Garbrandt, got knocked out, and has kind of been on a skid ever since. So Sean O'Malley coming in as a monster favorite in this fight. And I think he proved why. He came in, I think from, beginning to end this fight, dominated, could have put Almeida away in the first. Massive head kick. Almeida stumbles, drops him. And then I think he thought the fight was over. He was going to get one of his patented, walk-offs. The ref doesn't call it off. We head into the second round. And then we head into the third, and O'Malley gets it done just viciously. Especially when we were talking about this when we were watching the fights, like the one thing we're going to miss about having the fans back is being able to hear those shots. And that final shot from O'Malley with just an empty arena was just one of the most vicious things I've ever heard. Almeida was already out. I thought it was a little unnecessary. He even said it after the fight, but Sean O'Malley getting it done via KO. Break down this performance of Sugar Sean.
Yeah, it's a great comeback fight for him. He barely got touched the entire fight. Almeida was having a tough time getting on the inside. I think he landed, even O'Malley said in the post-fight interview that there was one shot that landed that was a pretty good one. But other than that, O'Malley used his distance, his movement, hit him with all sorts of shots, spinning techniques, landed some great punches, kicks. He looked, I mean, I'm not going to say back to his old self, but he looked better than we've ever seen him. And, had an opportunity to finish it in the first. Ref didn't step in. All the credit in the world to Almeida for making it to the third round, because that was a pretty vicious knockdown in the first to come back and fight the rest of the round. That was pretty good. But yeah, I mean, just all around, it was a great performance for him. And big question too with the leg kicks, that they weren't really a factor in this fight.
Yeah, and I think afterwards it was a big fuck you to all his haters when he was walking out of the octagon and he was pretending to stumble and he was saying, all it takes is a leg kick, all it takes is a leg kick. So I thought it was a flawless performance. Like you said, he barely got touched. Man, what I was surprised about was the size difference in there. Like he looks like a weight class above Almeida in this fight. He's just a naturally like skinny guy, but when he's in there, man, he's all bulked up, and he's a big, just tall dude for this division. And I think he's going to be a problem down the line, using his just reach, using his length. Like, and he's so fluid with his movement. Like, I really do like, I'm not comparing him to anyone here, but like, he moves kind of like a young Conor McGregor, like the way like his feet work and his kicks. Like, it's just, it's crazy to watch. And yeah, I think he answered a lot of questions with, can his leg withstand leg kicks? Yeah, he took a couple, right? There was nothing crazy. I thought Almeida was going to come in with kind of a more just like, I'm going to come at that leg kind of game plan, like he said. But he did what he did. And I thought Almeida, as tough as he is, and how as long as he lasted in that fight, it was super impressive, super like compelling fight, and is one that Sugar Sean definitely needed to win to keep that hype going. Because although he lost to Cheeto, there was a lot of controversy with it. Like, what if the leg didn't give out? I know it did, and I know he lost the fight, and I know he got TKO'd, but a lot of people still say like, hey, what happens if it didn't get out? Could he have beat Cheeto? All that stuff. But props to Thomas Almeida for lasting that long. Sean O'Malley came in with and definitely made a statement. Another just highlight reel KO. And the hype train continues. I guess like the biggest thing for him, right, is he came in unranked. He took on a guy in Almeida unranked. This fight, I wouldn't say this fight had really a lot to gain in here. Like, Almeida is definitely a tough opponent, but this wasn't a guy in the top 15. This wasn't a guy in the top 10. Like, this was just another fight to get the Sugar Show back on track. What do you think's next for him? Because I know Chael Sonnen on the after show said that Dom Cruz texted Chael right away and said, I want a piece of the Sugar Show. Like, does that fight make sense? Because that's like a big jump up from not being ranked to taking on Dom Cruz, who's number, what is he in the division right now?
He's at number 9.
He's number 9. So is that like too big of a jump? Is that not fair to guys like, you got guys like Cody Stamann, Kyler Phillips, who's looked just phenomenal. A guy like Cheeto Vera, right, who beat O'Malley and then unfortunately lost to Jose Aldo and is now sitting at that number 15 spot. If you're Dana White, you're playing matchmaker, what makes sense for the Sugar Show? Obviously, this kid brings a ton of eyeballs to the sport. He's brash. He's loud. I got a massive social media presence. Like, I know sometimes this is business decisions, but if you're Dana White, what are you doing next? Especially with Dom Cruz calling him out.
Yeah, I think you give him another ranked opponent. I think at this point, with all the finishes he's had, and he's only got that one loss to Cheeto Vera, which isn't like a blemish on anyone's record. Cheeto Vera he's one of the toughest guys in the division. Yeah, I like the Dom Cruz fight. I mean, if Dom Cruz is calling for it and O'Malley wants it, I think that's what they should do. Especially with Cruz just fighting. He just fought on the prelims for the first time ever.
Yep.
A couple weeks ago, a month ago, whatever. And and I don't see Kenny on the rankings either. So, I mean, if Cruz wants to fight, O'Malley wants to fight, I think that's a really marketable one. I think that'd be a really fun one to watch with all the footwork. I think it'd be more like a chess match. And I think the implications for both fighters are huge. It's a big payday for the two of them. If O'Malley wins, it brings him right into the 7, 8, 9 in the rankings most likely. And if Cruz wins, that puts him on a 2-fight winning streak, gets him right back to the top of the heap, gets him a lot of exposure with a big name like O'Malley. I like that one a lot. Another one that I've seen is that I've seen people talk about is we got Stamann and Merab fighting pretty soon, and potentially the winner of that. I think that's another one that would make sense. But I think the funner fight is probably the Cruz fight. But I think either one of those scenarios would be a good move for O'Malley.
Yeah, and I mean, you got a guy like Dom Cruz calling you out. Dom Cruz is a legend. He was a champion in this division. He was unblemished for a while, right? So it's like, hell yeah, you're gonna take that, right? Hurt a few feelings on the way up, but this is his chance to propel into the top 10, take out a legend, continue the hype train, and then you know, we're talking about a potential O'Malley title shot, probably, you know, if he keeps this up, I'd say early next year, man. Like if the way he goes and how active he is within the fight game, like, I mean, who knows if he works his way up here in the bantamweight division, right? It's just so fun. He just adds to this mix of just like fun fighters to watch. Like you take a look at this top five, right? We got the current champion Sterling, him and Jan are going at it. Corey Sanhagen's taking on TJ Dillashaw. Rob Font's taking on Cody Garbrandt. That's just the top five. Everyone in the top five is booked. That is so fun. And then you add a guy like O'Malley, who, again, he's just so fluid with his movement. He can knock you out from anywhere, right? Really hasn't been tested on the ground. So, like, do they throw, like, for example, a guy like a Stamen or a Marab? Like, that's going to be interesting fight for him to see how he can overcome adversity there. And then you got a guy like Dom Cruz, who moves just like him, who's just as quick, right? Maybe not like right now, but in his prime, like, you know, no one could even touch Dom Cruz. So it's an interesting fight. I agree. It's a little bit more compelling, and it gives him more of that like step up into the rankings. So I'm hoping they make that fight next. I don't know. Chael said something about Dom Cruz saying like, I want Piece of the Sugar Show next. Who knows if that's true, but I love that fight. And I think agreed. There's a lot of implications for both of those guys. So we'll see what happens there. And this bantamweight division is just so stacked, and there's just so many good fights to make. And I can't wait to see that unfold. And then obviously Sugar Show is good television there. The way he talks, his interviews, like all that stuff. He's you know, he's definitely making a name for himself there. So shout out Sean O'Malley, Sugar Show, great win, another highlight reel knockout. So let's move into the co-main event. This was originally supposed to be the featherweight championship on the line. Brian Ortega taking on Alexander Volkanovski. Volkanovski had to pull out due to COVID-19. So in the co-main event slot, we had a fun one. Vicente Luque taking on Tyron Woodley. Woodley back against the wall, lost 3 in a row. You know, I think he's potentially on the verge of one more loss, and he's, you know, probably going to get caught or going to have to retire or whatever it is. Taking on a killer Vicente Luque, who was on a tear, ran into Wonder Boy, and now is on a tear again. And for as long as this lasted, my God, was this one fun. Tyron Woodley from the opening bell comes out with just an overhand right, tries to take Luque out in one punch. They were going back and forth. Woodley rocks Luque. Luque rocks Woodley. Woodley's just spinning around the octagon. I don't know how they didn't call this fight. Woodley somehow rocks Luque again, and then Luque drops Woodley, submits him. What was the choke on this? I forget what kind of choke it was, but looks like Bravo choke. I don't even know what the hell that is.
Yeah, it kind of looks like a Darce, but yeah, I saw that too. I'm not sure what the difference.
Yeah, I thought it was a confirmed Darce, but Vicente Luque just going in for the kill, taking out Tyron Woodley in the first round. Honestly, one of the first rounds you'll ever see, like one of the funnest first rounds you'll ever see. Not sure how they didn't stop it, but I'm glad they didn't, because it was overall that back and forth was awesome. So break down this fight for me. Although, you know, Tyron's lost 4 straight, I do think that he went out on his shield. He finally let his hands go. I know it was a little bit too late, but super fun fight to watch. So give me a breakdown here.
Yeah, I mean, with Woodley, you know, coming off a 3-fight losing streak, I didn't really honestly have high hopes for him. I wasn't expecting him to come out the way he did. I thought he was going to be kind of low energy, and I thought Luque was just going to pick him apart the whole fight, but it was the complete opposite. He's completely energized. It kind of reminded me of when he fought Robbie Lawler.
Yeah.
When he just knocked him out like that. It was just super explosive, and that's exactly how he came out. And but that's where Luque kind of thrives. He thrives in that chaos, and he's got a great chin. He's got great striking too. So, you know, Woodley rocked Luque, and then immediately after, Luque floors him, and and then they were both basically on autopilot, just throwing bombs. It was insane scene. It was a really fun fight, but huge win for Luque, and you know, I thought it was a pretty good comeback. Even though he lost and whatever got finished, you know, it showed a lot of promise in Woodley, that he's, you know, still still excited to fight, still willing to fight, still willing to kind of dig down in those tough moments. But Dana was saying in the post fight, Woodley's 39 now on a 4-fight losing streak, and he didn't say it, but he kind of hinted that Woodley's probably going to get cut.
Yeah, just tough because, Woodley at one point, like, I mean, I don't know if you had the same kind of mystique about him, but like, I thought he was like unbeatable at one point. Like,
Yeah.
after he took out Till when Till was undefeated, and I know Till got a title shot like super quick, but after he beat Till, I'm like, who the hell is going to beat this dude? He's good everywhere. And then, ever since that Kamaru fight where, I think like his weaknesses just came out, right? Like putting him up against the cage, pressuring him, like taking him down with his back against the cage. Like he just, and you look at his record, and it's not like he's one of these guys that like retired, came back, and then went on this 4-fight losing streak to people that like he should have beaten, right? Like he took on Usman, Gilbert Burns, Colby Covington, and then Vicente Luque. It's not like he was fighting these slouches. Like he fought, I mean, Kamaru Usman is pound for pound one of the best in the world right now. Gilbert Burns just fought Kamaru Usman for the belt. Colby, arguably could have beaten Usman if he didn't get knocked out there, right? Like, and then you got a guy like Luque who just knocks out everyone that he fights, like just insane. So obviously super tough to see when Tyron was a champion who defended his belt 4 times. He was on his way to being the welterweight GOAT, you know what I mean? And it's just tough that like this is kind of puts a sour taste in MMA fans' mouths, like just thinking about him now and the things that he was going through when he was champion. I think people forget really how good he was. But let's talk about Luque, man, here. Great fight. This dude is one of the funnest fighters to watch in this whole game. He called out Nate Diaz, which I love the call out. And I think it's going to be a phenomenal fight if it ever happens. Do I think it's ever going to happen? Unfortunately, no. But I mean, it puts him in a pretty good spot right now, right? He took on a guy in Woodley. Woodley was sitting at number 7, right? Luque at 10. I'm assuming tomorrow morning when the rankings come out, he's going to take number 7. Look at the guys in front of him, man. He's got Mike Chiesa. He already lost to Wonderboy Thompson, and then he's got everyone in the top 5, right? It seems like Chiesa might be the next best fight for him. Is that a fight you like to see, or are you going to try to push for that Diaz fight?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely push for the Diaz fight, but it's all dependent on Diaz. It's so tough to get him to agree to terms to fight. It seems like so. I don't know. Did Diaz respond like over Twitter or anything to Luque's call out? I'm not sure if he did,
I
but
don't think he did. Nate.
yeah. I mean, Nate's probably. I mean, so right now he's got a potential Masvidal rematch. I think there's a little bit of excitement around that.
Yeah.
Even though Masvidal's going to fight Usman pretty soon, and then that Conor trilogy has to happen at some point. So
Sure.
I don't know if he's just waiting around for those two or what, but yeah. I mean, it'd be a fun fight to watch, but Luque versus anybody in that whole division, I think it's an awesome fight.
He's just so good. The guy doesn't have any quit in him, and what worries me is he gets rocked in all of his fights, but he just finds a way to win, man.
Mm-hmm.
And I think a fight versus Chiesa would be interesting. Chiesa's tough. Chiesa's on a 4-fight win streak, taking out Carlos Condit, Diego Sanchez, RDA, and then most recently Neil Magny, right? Like he's got a fucking killer list there too. So that's a fun one. Chiesa's so good on the ground. He's really well-rounded, but you got a guy like Luque who just literally cannot be stopped. Like this dude will go out on his shield, and he proves that he's one of the toughest dudes, not only in the division, but in all of the UFC. So I think that's the fight to make next, man. I think if Diaz obviously doesn't go through, I think we definitely see Chiesa Luque next, and Luque making himself a household name because, although Tyron lost 3 straight, what he did was super impressive. not a lot of people can take punches from Tyron Woodley. We've seen Robbie Lawler. We've seen a bunch of people go down from that. And for him to just eat multiple shots that had him rocked, and for him to be composed and to not only drop Woodley multiple times, but also submit Woodley, have the strength to submit him while he's tired, while he's been rocked multiple times, to me is super impressive. I don't care if you're on a 3-fight losing streak or not. So I cannot wait to see this dude fight. I swear, I don't care where in the fight card he's at. I will always make sure to watch a Vicente Luque fight. Dude's so exciting. So shout out Vicente Luque. Cannot wait to see what happens with you next. Great co-main event. Shout out Tyron Woodley. If that was the last time we see in the UFC, thank you, sir, for all your services in this welterweight division. Awesome. Let's get to the main event. This is what everyone has been waiting for, the rematch. Heavyweight championship on the line. We had Stipe Miocic, the GOAT, taking on Francis Ngannou. They last fought back in the TD Garden years ago, a few years back. Stipe with a dominant performance, 50-45ing, Francis Ngannou after, a pretty scary first round, a few exchanges from Francis. And I think ultimately Francis kind of just gassed out. He was pretty relatively young in his UFC career, rose up to the top with just a shit ton of scary knockouts. So I think a lot of people didn't really know who to pick in this fight. Francis is a pretty big favorite, which I think a lot of people were surprised about, but he's coming off of 4 straight first round knockouts. I think he had 2 minutes and 43 seconds in 4 fights, which is absurd. Stipe coming off of that exciting trilogy with DC. So I think a lot of people were not underestimating Francis because he was the favorite, of course, but I think a lot of people thought this was going to go the same way as the first fight. And my God, were we wrong. Francis just looking like a different fighter. Even when I saw Stipe going for that shot in the first round, I was like, oh, here we go. It's over. And when I saw Francis sprawl, and I was like, holy shit, he knows how to sprawl. And then he takes Stipe's back. I'm mind blown. I know you're mind blown. And he gets him up against the cage. He threw about 20 shots to Stipe's head. And Stipe is just, I see him kind of wobbling. I go, oh my God, what just happened? And I knew there that this fight was over. Stipe was in trouble. And Francis just getting it done in the second round via just vicious punch. I mean, he's had some crazy knockouts in his career. For him to do that to a guy, and people are saying not only just the heavyweight GOAT, but potentially could have been the MMA GOAT, was just scary. His leg in the back, and then he gets the hammer fist at the end. My God, Francis Ngannou looked patient. He looked scarier than ever. And my God, he knows how to use his MMA skills, which was just shocking to me. Francis Ngannou getting it done in the second round via KO can break this fight down for me, because I think we were both kind of shocked at this result.
Yeah, I mean, he pretty much covered everything. Going into it, I mean, they already fought before, so we kind of had expectations of, Stipe trying to get the takedown, and we had expectations of Ngannou kind of gassing after round 1, and those are the 2 big questions going into this fight: is, has he improved? Has his stamina improved? And I think on top of that, we just saw a more mature fighter as well. I mean, when he first stuffed the takedown and Stipe was trying to stand back up and he was getting all those shots off, he didn't stick with it. He reset and was a lot more patient. I think earlier in his career or against other fighters, he would have just completely swarmed them and potentially gassed himself out. But I think with this fight, he had the knowledge and the experience going in to, pick his shots. If he sees an opportunity, take advantage of it. And once it goes, come back, reset, and kind of conserve your energy for later in the fight. But yeah, I mean, the first round, Ngannou wins. In my book, it didn't look like Stipe was able to get a whole lot going. You kind of see it in his face at the end of the first round too. He's kind of looked like I don't know. There's like a little bit of shock, like
Yeah.
he was fighting a different fighter, and he gets knocked down early in the second, gets back up, and throws a right hand, and I think he thought that he hurt Ngannou, and he kind of rushed in, and Ngannou caught him perfectly with a hook coming in, and yeah, put him out, but finished the job with a ham fist. But when after Stipe hit the mat, so yeah, super scary. Um, Look forward to seeing him defend the belt, but I have no idea who's going to beat that guy.
Were you surprised? And I think we talked about this on the last podcast on how we just haven't seen enough evidence for us to be like, he's going to be able to defend a takedown. Like, were you surprised at that initial when Stipe went in that he couldn't take Francis down? Like, honestly, were you kind of just like, here we go, like this is it? Like, I was utterly just shocked because I remember even we were talking about it, we're like, Francis' mouth's already open. Like I don't think he was gassing at all. Like, I don't know why his mouth was open and he was, mouth breathing a lot. But like, were you surprised at that initial like takedown that he actually defended it and defended it pretty well and then took Stipe's back? Like, I couldn't believe it, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, the guy was just such a massive man. Like trying to take him down in general without any takedown defense, I assume would take a whole lot of effort on Stipe's part, and then having him sprawl on top of him with an extra 30 pounds. Um, yeah, I mean it was pretty surprising, but then again, it's the first round too, so they're both relatively fresh. Ngannou has the energy to defend the takedown. Who knows if he tried that again in round two, round three, if they were to make it that far, how that would have went. But yeah, I mean, and that's something we typically see in MMA fights. We don't see right off the bat takedowns. When both fighters are fresh, it's really tough to get a takedown unless you're, like a Khabib or an Usman or something like that, or just the opportunity arises. You can't really force it in that first round.
Yeah, I was just so shocked at like how, you know what I mean? I feel like even in the Rosenstrike fight, right? Like, although it was just an amazing knockout that Francis had, like he was windmilling. It looked like there was no technique behind it. In this Stipe fight, man, like he just looked so technical. He looked patient. He looked light on his feet, and he didn't charge in for a finish. Like you said, Stipe was the one that actually charged in, and Francis countered, and it was just a beautiful finish. Like, it was, you couldn't have asked for a better fight from Francis, and preparations and um, just the way it was a different fight from 2 years ago. And I know that's why rematches are just so incredible to watch. But this was just like a night and day type rematch. Like, you don't see this kind of performance, especially at heavyweight against Stipe. Like, Stipe just went all the rounds with DC, one of the best trilogies ever. And although DC landed just a fucking perfect punch on Stipe, what Francis did was more impressive. Picking him apart like that. Like, DC had him in the clinch, just hit him right in the button. It was a perfect knockout. Francis actually picked apart Stipe. We saw Francis Ngannou throw a head kick at Stipe. Like, I can't even believe a man that big can throw a head kick. So, to me, perfect performance. And obviously, shout out Stipe. You're the GOAT. I don't think you lost any fans from this. You took on a monster. No one would sign to fight Francis Ngannou twice. That's why I also shout out Curtis Blades. He did the same thing, but he got knocked out twice. But this is pretty interesting next, because I think, what does everyone want to see next, right? Everyone wants to see that Jon Jones fight. Jon Jones was just tweeting out a storm all day yesterday, today, saying he wants to get paid, saying, release me. I don't know what the hell he was doing. I think that's obviously the logical next fight for Francis to defend his belt. I'm worried that Jones might price himself out of the fight. You got Derek Lewis sitting in there in the next potential spot. But are people overlooking a Stipe trilogy on this one? Or do you think, like, the way he was finished the damage that he took, like, I know he's probably going to be out for a while. Like, is that illogical at all? Or is because Francis really didn't take any damage in that fight, like, he's got to get back in there in the next couple months, right? Like, what's the next best option? And do you think that Jones fight is going to happen this year? Because to me, I'm worried that he's going to price himself out.
Yeah, from the way it sounds, with the way he's tweeting and stuff, it seems like he's just gonna make it too much of a hassle to make a fight.
Yeah.
And you know, I don't see Derek Lewis having any issues taking a Ngannou title fight. So I think if he gives the UFC too much trouble to try to make that fight happen, I don't think they're going to spend a whole lot of time on it. I think they'll go right to Derek Lewis and make that fight. And yeah, I mean that's another good one. I know it wasn't super exciting the first time around, but they're both different fighters at this point, and with a title on the line, I think it just adds a little bit more pressure for the two of them to perform.
Yeah, and that's obviously everyone. I know everyone doesn't want to see that fight again, but realistically, people do. Derek Lewis has been on an absolute tear. Francis Ngannou just took out the GOAT. I would love to see that fight again. Going back to Jones, I know a lot of people are saying Jones is scared, whatever. Obviously, Jon Jones is one of the greatest of all time. I don't think he's scared of Francis Ngannou. I just think he wants to make a fuck ton of money in this fight. It's a super fight. I 100% side with him. It just goes to show. I think there was some boxing match on Saturday. I think I read this stat. It was Jon Jones has made about like 7 million his whole UFC career. The dude, Dylan White, I think he was a boxer from the UK, or I don't even know who he is. He made 7 million just on Saturday night. So it just goes to show you the discrepancy there. And I get where Jones is coming from, but I mean, trust me, I would want to get paid if I was fighting Francis Ngannou too. But taking a look at that and just like the way that Jon Jones has fought in this past, let's just say 3 fights, do you have any confidence that he can go in and beat Francis Ngannou? And I know like it's crazy how people are saying like Francis is going to destroy him, all this stuff, but like we're talking about Jon Jones, the man that doesn't have any losses on his record, right? He has that one, it was a DQ. Well, Jon Jones is an undefeated fighter, let's just say. Yeah, has he looked great in his last couple of fights? No, but he got the job done. He won. And I feel like he isn't getting enough credit if him and Francis step in there. Like, what if you were early prediction, right? I don't know when this fight would happen. I'm assuming sometime in the summer, but I mean, can Francis knock out Jon Jones, or is Jon Jones going to ragdoll him? Kind of like a Stipe 1 fight. I don't know. Like, what do you think?
Yeah, I think Jones has a lot more tools. So he's got all those kicks, and his wrestling's really good. I think in a fight with Ngannou, I think the endurance and cardio of Ngannou is still a factor. I mean, even though we didn't necessarily see it in this fight, it was only what 7 minutes long.
Yeah.
The title fight's 25 minutes, so I think the tools that Jones has are good enough to kind of keep Ngannou guessing on the feet, and then once he hits that point where Ngannou looks a little tired, might be easy to take down, and then I think it just becomes a different fight from there. But I mean, Ngannou has the power to knock anybody out. He's got the ability to do that. We've never seen Jones hit by a heavyweight, and we've never seen him hit by someone like Ngannou. So even though he's had a great chin, in light heavyweight, Ngannou's a different story. It just takes one.
Yeah, it's that's such an interesting matchup because you got Jon Jones, who's one of the greatest ever, unblemished on his career. I know like fights like the Dom Reyes fight, the Thiago Santos fight, there's a lot of question marks behind that, but at the end of the day, Jones finds a way to get things done. So I'm curious to see how he would handle the power, right? And you look at his career, Jon Jones has one of the greatest resumes ever, and I agree with you. He's never been hit by a heavyweight, right? But he's been hit by guys like, Rampage Jackson. He's been hit by guys like Vitor Belfort, right? Like Daniel Cormier, just guys that are killers. But how is he going to handle a 262-pound Francis Ngannou who just knocked out Stipe and made it look easy?
Mm-hmm.
I can't wait. I can't wait for this fight to be made. I think this fight could sell record-breaking pay-per-view numbers, because I think this is like a fight where it's like Jon Jones beats Francis Ngannou. He's the greatest MMA fighter to ever live. There's no questions anymore. There's no Khabib. There's no GSP. Jones just went up to heavyweight and just beat Francis Ngannou, right? Who is just, like you said, I think aside from Jon Jones, and I know Derek Lewis beat him already, but there was like 13 punches thrown in that whole fight. I do not see anyone else beating him. I don't see Stipe beating him in a trilogy. He already beat Curtis Blades twice, right? Just take a look at the heavyweight roster right now. Cyril Gane is someone who's going to be a question mark for him, and him and Francis are going to fight. They're like both just mountain of men. Mm-hmm. Everyone else just doesn't entice me, man. Like Jairzinho already got smoked by him. And I don't see anyone else giving him a problem outside of the top 5. So Jon Jones is the most interesting matchup you can make for Francis Ngannou. The question is Jon Jones going to price himself out this year? I agree. I think he will. I do not think that fight's going to happen this year. I think he's going to want too much money. I think they're going to make the Lewis fight probably in the summer. Lewis is coming off of a win. Lewis has been on a tear. Francis obviously coming off the biggest knockout of his career. He's new. And I think that fight's going to happen before we see Jon Jones. Maybe end of the year, maybe early next year. The way Jones is tweeting and like what he's saying release me. Like, I don't even know what the hell he's doing right now. I just don't see it happening. So looks like Derek Lewis is next up. And then, you got a guy like Cyril Gane who's just, undefeated. He's a friggin' house of a human. So that could be a great fight too. But at the end of the day, man, do I think any heavyweight can even touch Francis? No, he hits way too hard. And especially if this guy has, takedown defense, my God, he's going to be an animal. So I'm curious to see what happens next. Jon Jones was also tweeting out like, there should be a proposal in my inbox next week. Like, so I don't know. It all depends what he does next. Dana White said if Jon wants to fight, he knows who to call. He'll set it up. So but I think this could be the biggest fight in UFC history. I don't think there's been this much buzz around the heavyweights, although they're coming off of probably the best trilogy ever. Francis, I think, just cemented himself as like a superstar. Like, when you have like a true heavyweight like that, who can knock people out and put their lights out with one punch, his story is like incredible too. So I think that gives him a lot of appeal. Mm-hmm. So I'm just curious, man. Obviously, like, hell of a fight. Francis looked incredible, and not to take anything away from Stipe, but he looked off in there, man. Like, even when he first came in, I felt like there was something off about him. Not that he wasn't ready or anything like that. Stipe's the GOAT, but he just, I agree. You said it right. You said, like, when he went back to the corner after that first round, like, he had this look in his eyes, like, holy shit, like, what the hell am I doing in here right now? Like, this dude is a different fighter. So, but overall, just an amazing fight. Shout out Francis Ngannou, defying all the odds, beating the heavyweight GOAT, and now he's got that belt wrapped around his waist. And my God, I feel bad for whoever has to go up against him next. Hopefully the Jones fight is made. If not, Derek Lewis are up next. Hopefully we get a better showing from this one, and we'll see that. I think Francis is going to come for his head for this one, and I think we could see a potential Jairzinho type ending in that one too, with him and Derek Lewis. But you can never count Derek Lewis out of a fight. So, and maybe they'll make that one relatively soon. So, shout out Stipe, shout out Francis Ngannou. You guys are legends. UFC 260 in the books. Dana White, thank you for another amazing pay-per-view. Guys, the next time we're talking pay-per-views, we're going to have a full arena. We're going to have 3 title fights, and we're going to have Jorge Masvidal back, taking on Kamaru Usman. So I cannot wait to preview that. We're off from fights this weekend, so nothing to preview. Next week, we're going to preview Marvin Vettori, Darren Till. That is an absolute banger of a fight. I cannot wait to preview that one. Guys, go to our website, www.flatlinemma.com. Go buy some merch. Go read our blogs. get up to date with all Flatlined news. Go support the boys. We want to blow up our YouTube. You guys are doing such a great job on our Instagram. I believe 14.7K followers on Instagram. Thank you guys for the love. We love you. Go buy some merch. Bye. And until next time, Flatline MMA. Peace.